And it looked like ESPN just told the shocking truth as to why Sandy Brondello was let go by the New York Liberty. Guys, for this one here,
ESPN just revealed the shocking truth behind Sandy Brondello's sudden exit, and fans are stunned. The Liberty's most successful coach, fresh off delivering a championship, was abruptly pushed out the door. Now the real reasons are out, and they're just as chaotic as they are unbelievable. This revelation doesn't just explain her firing, it reshapes the entire future of the WNBA.
New York Liberty have let go Sandy Brondello. Well, in their terms, they will not renew her contract. In our eyes, they parted ways. She was fired, essentially. But not as bad as being fired, I guess. But that's just how we talk out here. Nonetheless, I'm shocked. She's been a coach there for 4 seasons. You look at the past 3 seasons, she made it to the finals in her 2nd season. She won the finals in her 3rd season, and they lost in round 1 this year. Outside looking in, you look at this franchise and you see that's a successful franchise. New York is a powerhouse in the W right now. So what is the issue? What is the front office looking at? What are the owners?
ESPN just lit the fuse on a story shaking the WNBA to its core. Sandy Brondello, the winningest coach in New York Liberty history, shown the door only a year after bringing home a championship. At first, fans thought it had to be a mistake, but no, it's very real, and it's a brutal reminder of how cutthroat front offices become when egos and power struggles take over. What ESPN uncovered makes it clear. This wasn't some knee-jerk reaction to a single playoff stumble. The tension had been building for a long time. In fact, Brondello's job was already hanging by a thread last season, and the title she delivered was the only thing that kept her around. It was championship or nothing, and now we see just how unforgiving that ultimatum truly was.
The title, what exactly led to the parting of ways between the Liberty and Sandy Brondello here?
Well, Malika, I know you guys talk about this a lot in the NBA and in other sports, but it was really championship or bust for New York and for Sandy Brondello. And in fact, if they hadn't won the championship last year, we might have been having this conversation a year ago, which is maybe a little startling to fans outside, given how, excuse me for those noises, for how impactful she'd been for that franchise. But that is how bullish this organization is in New York, and how their ownership and management really are looking to just continue upon that success.
Tell me, how does that add up? You bring in a coach who completely transforms your franchise, breaks records, delivers the most wins in Liberty history, and even hangs a championship banner. And the reward for all that? A pink slip. It's like finishing a 5-star meal, licking the plate clean, and then sending it back to the kitchen because the silverware wasn't shiny enough. It just doesn't compute. And ESPN's report only confirmed the madness behind it.
And so I think for New York moving forward, I would expect them to really, again, be bullish in who they go after. We know that they are a WNBA franchise that invests a lot in a lot of resources, a lot of financial, capital into these decisions. So I think it wouldn't be shocking, though, if they decide to go after maybe someone in the NBA, someone that we might be a little bit more of a non-traditional hire. I do think Sandy Brondello has a great shot of getting hired again. We know what she has done in this league. We know that there's openings in Seattle, for example, in addition to the 2.
The Liberty front office has a reputation for being ruthless. In plain terms, their Wall Street ownership runs the team like a trading desk. If the returns aren't flawless, they cut their losses and chase the next investment. Patience isn't in their vocabulary. They demand constant domination, and if you can't deliver it instantly, they'll go find someone who they think will. But here's where the story takes a shocking twist. Brondello wasn't just winning, she was doing it under circumstances stacked against her. Key players were banged up in the playoffs, some never fully healthy. The roster lacked real depth, and still, she pushed them to the finals and even captured a championship. Yet somehow, the front office spun all of that into a strike against her.
ESPN to give us an update as to why Sandy Brondello will let go. And what's crazy about all of this in this interview that I'm about to show you guys is that Sandy Brondello was supposed to be fired last year, but she actually won the WNBA championship.
ESPN's insider Alexa reported that the front office had already drawn the line before the playoffs even tipped off. Championship or bust. In other words, if the Liberty didn't repeat as champions, Sandy Brondello was finished. Let that reality sink in for a moment.
Liberty just fired their head coach. People are confused as to why, because they won the championship last year, they made the playoffs this year. In sports, there's always a scapegoat when things aren't aren't going the way that they wanted it to go. Clearly, in New York, the standard has been raised. As Coach Tibbs learned with the New York Knicks, making the playoffs does not guarantee that you are safe anymore. They have raised the standard. They're sending a message to the fans, to the team, saying, we don't want to just go to the playoffs. We need to go to the finals and we need to win. So if it's not the players on the court that are changing, it's got to be the coaching staff. So unfortunately, that did mean Coach.
She gave New York its very first championship, yet the standard set for her was nothing short of impossible. Win it all again immediately or be shown the door. The expectations were so absurd that failure was practically guaranteed, and honestly, it borders on comedy. Around the league, teams would do anything to land a coach with her resume. 40 playoff victories, multiple titles across different franchises, and a reputation for uniting players without ever resorting to dictatorship. But the Liberty looked at that track record and basically said, appreciate it, but we'll pass. It's like firing a chef right after he earns you your first Michelin star, just because the garnish on one dish wasn't Instagram ready, and the way they handled it, absolutely ruthless. ESPN made it clear this wasn't a graceful farewell. No celebration, no tribute, no moment to honor her legacy. Just a flat cookie-cutter statement and a pivot straight into their next coaching search. Ice cold. And this is bigger than one firing. It exposes a larger problem. The WNBA chasing NBA-style drama without the same foundation to back it up. The Liberty are acting like the Lakers axing a coach for not pulling off a three-putt. Reality check. You're still in a league battling for recognition, still trying to prove to casual fans why stars like Caitlin Clark matter. What you need is stability, not chaos. And since we're talking Caitlin Clark, let's be real. This whole situation ties right back to her. Clark has already shifted the entire balance of power in the WNBA. Year 2, she's no longer just the rookie sensation. She's the face of the league. Every move she makes is magnified. And when a respected coach like Sandy Brondello openly praised her and acknowledged her influence, it rubbed the old guard the wrong way. That's the part ESPN hinted at without spelling out. Brondello giving Caitlin her flowers didn't sit well with certain people. The Liberty want their own stars, Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, to be front and center, not sharing the spotlight with Clark. Having their coach highlight Caitlin's cultural impact clashes with the "we're the center of the universe" brand New York has been selling. And here's where things get messy. Stewart only signed a 1-year deal. Translation, she could walk. Imagine that. The Liberty cut ties with their championship coach just to make a point, and in the process, risk alienating the very superstar who gave them legitimacy. ESPN even floated the idea Stewart could bolt, and if that happens, New York goes from title favorite to rebuild mode overnight. That's the gamble they're playing, and it's downright reckless. Meanwhile, voices across the league are calling it out. Becky Hammon didn't mince words. She flat out said she didn't like the move. And when one of the most respected coaches in the game basically calls your decision trash without using the word, maybe it's time to rethink your strategy. But the Liberty, they're not listening. They're too busy acting like chess masters while really just flipping the board in frustration. Then comes the bigger question. Who replaces Brondello? ESPN even suggested New York might look outside the WNBA, maybe to an NBA assistant, because nothing screams stability like handing a veteran roster to someone who's never run a WNBA locker room. That's like putting a rookie driver in a Formula 1 car because he was good at go-karts. It's careless, but big splash moves are exactly New York's style. The irony? Sandy Brondello is going to be fine. Seattle has an opening. Expansion teams are coming. She's too accomplished, too respected to be out of work for long. So in the end, it's not just the Liberty losing a coach, it's the Liberty sabotaging themselves. By letting Sandy Brondello walk, the Liberty may have just handed one of their rivals a golden ticket. Imagine her taking over in Seattle and leading the Storm to another championship. That would be the ultimate revenge tour, and you can bet ESPN would be all over it. Now let's rewind and look at the numbers under Brondello. In 2022, the Liberty finished 16-20. Tough year, but it was a rebuild. In 2023, they skyrocketed to 32-8 and reached the finals. In 2024, they went 32-8 again, and this time actually won the title. And in 2025, a 27-7 season that ended in a first-round exit, mostly due to injuries. That resume gets you fired? Seriously? Coaches with half those accomplishments are rewarded with contract extensions and statues outside their arenas. That's why fans are livid. This move doesn't add up from a basketball perspective. It only makes sense if you assume the Liberty front office cares more about image than results. They want to be the league's glamour franchise, the WNBA's flagship team, flexing resources and hogging headlines. But instead of building on stability, they've created chaos, and chaos almost never wins. Think about the message this sends to the locker room. Players are told to trust management, buy into the system, and believe that hard work pays off. Instead, they just watch the coach who guided them to history get tossed aside like yesterday's headline. That's demoralizing, and don't think the players won't notice. These are pros, and they know when the front office is playing games. The fans notice too. ESPN highlighted how shocked the reaction was. Social media exploded with Liberty fans calling it betrayal, sabotage, pure nonsense. Some even vowed they won't support the team until ownership changes. What the front office thought was a power move has completely backfired, alienating the very people who built their momentum. But here's the bigger picture. This isn't just about Sandy Brondello. This is about the WNBA's habit of getting in its own way. Too often, the league undercuts success. Instead of celebrating growth, it fuels drama. Instead of embracing multiple stars, it forces rivalries. Instead of building for the long haul, it chases quick fixes. That's why this firing feels bigger than one coach. It's a warning sign for the entire league. And that's why ESPN didn't frame this as just a firing. They called it what it is, a franchise identity crisis. The Liberty are caught between two paths. One is the steady foundation Brondello built. The other is the flashy, impatient vision of ownership desperate to act like an NBA super team. And in chasing the spotlight, they may have just dimmed their own future. That tension finally spilled over, and Sandy Brondello ended up taking the fall. The irony? Her players were still behind her. After their playoff exit, Breanna Stewart went on record saying the team had Sandy's back. That wasn't empty talk. That was a superstar making it crystal clear the locker room still believed in their coach. But management didn't care. And if you're someone like Stewart on just a one-year deal, the message is loud and clear. Your voice doesn't matter. You asked for stability and they handed you chaos. That makes walking away an easy option. And let's not kid ourselves. The entire league is paying attention. Players and coaches across the WNBA saw what just went down. A coach who exceeded expectations, dumped for failing to live up to an impossible standard. That's a warning shot. Loyalty means nothing. Winning isn't enough. And if you think free agents don't notice, think again. Why would any star trust New York when they know management will flip the script at the first sign of trouble? ESPN pointed to something deeper. This wasn't about a playoff loss. It was about power. The Liberty's wealthy ownership has poured millions into branding, marketing, and facilities, trying to crown themselves the face of the league. But with all that money comes ego. They don't want a coach soaking up the credit for building the system. They want that credit themselves. Brondello's success threatened their narrative. That's why insiders believe her replacement could come from outside the WNBA, maybe an NBA assistant, not because it's smart basketball, but because it looks bold. It makes headlines. It fits the flashy New York identity. But here's the reality. Players don't care about splashy hires. They care about trust, consistency, and whether a coach can guide them through the grind of a season. Brondello had already proven she could do that. Whoever takes her place is stepping into a minefield. And don't forget, expansion is on the horizon. Seattle has a vacancy. 2 new franchises will be hiring. Brondello will have offers, no question. And imagine the scene if she takes one of those jobs and wins again. The Liberty, who pushed her out, would instantly become the league's punchline. That's the kind of poetic justice fans live for. But the bigger picture, the one ESPN hammered home, is this. New York just made themselves the story for all the wrong reasons. Instead of celebrating a dynasty run, they're drowning in questions about dysfunction, ego, and whether they even understand what a winning culture looks like. The players see it, the fans see it, and if the front office thinks they can spin this as some bold master plan, they're fooling themselves. All of this is happening at a crucial moment for the league. Caitlin Clark is in year 2, driving ratings to historic levels. New young stars are breaking through. The WNBA has momentum like never before. And while the rest of the league is growing, the Liberty are tripping over their own ego. The WNBA is riding a wave of momentum unlike anything it's seen in decades. The last thing the league needed was one of its marquee franchises showing the world exactly how not to handle success. And yet, that's exactly what the New York Liberty just did. Sandy Brondello wasn't pushed out because she failed. She was pushed out because she wasn't easy enough to control. ESPN pulled back the curtain and revealed every uncomfortable truth behind that move. So now where do things stand? The league just witnessed its so-called flagship franchise unravel under the weight of ego. A coach who over-delivered is already being courted by other teams, and fans are left asking themselves whether the Liberty just sabotaged their own future for the sake of image. The facts are clear. Brondello made history, and they still showed her the door. That's not basketball. It's politics disguised as decision-making, and if you're a fan, you deserve better than that. Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next breakdown.